Hello, everybody. Warm welcome to our open group sessions on this Thursday. Very nice that you could join me. I'm so happy to be back with you again. It's been a while since we were able to come together and practice. So today's session will be an hour long, and these sessions will take place every second Thursday. So between now and the 18th of December, there'll be 6 sessions in total. So every second Thursday, we'll meet at the same time for an hour. Let me just tell you a little bit about the sessions before we move into the topic for today. So really wanted to provide a group environment for us to steady ourselves. It feels, certainly when we look out on the world, it can feel as if things are a little crazy right now, that the world is moving quickly and inexorably towards a place that we don't recognize. Perhaps we are starting to question human nature. Certainly, the impact on the planet and humanity is pretty stark right now. So, for all of those reasons, we felt that it was a good time for us to reconvene and recommit to the kind of practice that helps us steady ourselves, helps us perceive what's really happening, not just what looks like it's happening, and to be able to make some shifts within our own being that can not only make it easier to be in the world, but also perhaps even make it easier for others to be in the world, to provide some kind of solace, to provide an example, to provide levels of comfort and steadiness and light and love that make a difference to the environments that we're in. So that's really why we wanted to come together. We are in an intensive period of planetary change. So it's not just our own planet, but all the planets in the solar system are undergoing change. But obviously, we are focused very much on what's happening on this planet. And most of what's happening on other planets in the wider solar system doesn't normally enter our consciousness. But it's just to give you some context that we're not the only ones going through rapid and radical shifts. The whole solar system is doing that simultaneously. But on Earth, because we are a little bit behind in our curriculum, and because there is such a strong veil of forgetting over this planet and over humanity, that we are really going through this massive shift somewhat in the dark. And so the effects that it creates, both in the human experience, but also collectively as a planet, as well as obviously individually, in our personal lives, that kind of effect seems much more dramatic, much more unsettling, and much more frightening from a certain perspective. So again, we just wanted to offer a perspective that might help to give us a little context for that, and also inform us when we look out on the world, we can remember some of this and start to look at the world and look at how we respond to it with new eyes and in new ways. So because the whole solar system is going through an increase in frequency, and we won't today go into why that is, but it's just part of a bigger evolution for this solar system. And so we are obviously caught up in that, we're affected by that. And those increased frequencies do give us new ways of perceiving and experiencing. They make possible new ways of navigating our being, accessing and receiving information, and and noticing our true self. So as these energies increase in frequency, they create a more conducive environment for those things to take place. Obviously, our physical body is affected by that, particularly our right brain, which is monitoring and tracking these frequencies all the time without us realizing it. So the right brain, which controls the left side of the body, is responsible for seeing the bigger picture. It's responsible for piecing everything together. It's looking at the background. It's not looking at discrete events in the foreground. It's looking at the background. It's piecing them all together. It's making sense of things. It relies largely on its innate intuition to do that. So the right brain has this ability to download understanding wholesale without having to. The left brain would have to say 1 + 1 = 2, whereas the right brain can go straight to, I know what I'm seeing and experiencing, and it's a 2. Another thing that happens with these increased frequencies is that our perceptive faculties get an upgrade. So you may have noticed that in your meditations, you may have noticed that when you are interacting with nature or groups of people, you may be getting more hunches and downloads and insights into things. So these also increase in regularity. And of course, because our whole body is an energetic matrix, these increased frequencies also have an effect on our physical heart, but also on our spiritual heart. And so they serve to awaken within us the qualities of care, compassion, belonging, inclusion, tolerance, and so on. So you might say, well, if all of these, frequencies are increasing and all of this is happening to me and the wider field, then why is it that the planet and particularly humanity looks like it's in a very low and disordered state right now? It's because those same frequencies which are enabling a huge leap forward in terms of uh, individual and collective evolution are also working on a lot of the old forms that have already been created and built. So because everything is interconnected and nothing is separate, these energies that are being released onto the planet because they are solar system wide are finding their way into the very dense, low and compact patterns, frequencies, thought forms, emotions, and built forms that are an expression of the old understanding. And as part of that process, our left brain is getting very challenged. Our left brain is the aspect of our brain which sees only parts. It can't see things joined up. It's very sure of itself. So the left brain is the side of our brain that, yes, we can say it's rational, but the right brain is also rational too. It's a kind of intuitive rationalism. The left brain has a kind of rationalism that's born of its own sense making. So it's very convinced of its own narrative. When we've done sessions on how the mind works, we can see how this left brain dominance affects the way that our mind works. The left brain is also likes to control things, doesn't like anything to be out of control, and it's also subject very much to delusion. So we can see how this left brain dominance that most human beings have fallen into over the last few hundred years has meant that we are now more susceptible to delusions. We have to exert greater control, and we have anchored our conscious noticing into the parts and not the whole. So these energies that are causing this widespread awakening and opening and recalibration of everything that the left brain has brought into being are finding that very challenging. So that's why we see, a lot of people affected by what is happening on the planet, and they go into a fear response. And this is the way that the left brain is perceiving and trying to give meaning to something that it simply cannot understand. That's the job of the right brain. Obviously, as we mentioned, a long history of human endeavor and the built environment is based on that partial understanding, particularly in the last few hundred years, since the 1700s, with the demise of the right brain activities that human beings engaged in up until that, the increasing separation from nature, the over reliance on facts and figures, and on mental processes at the expense of our feeling and our intuition. All of these things have, as we as creatures have developed that way, so we've built our environment in the name and the shape of that understanding. What's happened is, because we're looking at the parts, we're seeing, oh, look, there's a war here, there's a war there, there's a authoritarian leader over there, there's environmental degradation over there, there's neglected children over there. We're seeing all of this, and we're not able to make the connection. Or if we do make connections between them, because the left brain is subject to delusions, it doesn't make the right connections. It jumps to a narrative to explain all of this that is almost never accurate. Unless, of course, you already know about the deeper design and how that's giving rise to the apparently separate phenomenon on the surface. So these connections that we are missing are literal. So there's the literal connection is between the right and left hemispheres of the brain, between spirit and matter, between good and bad, between light and dark. We're missing how to put all of those things together, right and wrong. Also, there's a metaphorical connection, in so much as we don't see how things fit together anymore. We don't, as human beings, we engage less and less with each other and more with our technology. And so the connections are being broken down and arrested. And these connections are so important for us to feel and to take hold of the increasing energies that are now flooding our planet. We know that these collective influences have a very strong effect on individual human beings. We also can see that there are many aspects of modern life where the influence on individuals is designed to cause the maximum amount of stimulation to the emotions. So we see that with media, we see that with television and movies, we see that with social media. We see it even in the level of public discourse and debate. We see that in also the way that we feel it is normal to interact with our fellow human beings and what level of decency and dignity we ascribe to. So at the moment, all of this that we've just described about this increasing frequency is causing this unsettling to the way that we have developed our physical human being, the way that we have navigated within that, and the way that we have created our built environment. So because of that disruption, there's more and more, what would the word be? Certainly there's more incoherence, but there's more stimulation, and there's more, I can't find the right word, but the jumpiness, for want of a better word, is not a great word. There's more jumpiness in our emotional field, individually and collectively. And because of that, the mind, influenced as it is in many people by this left brain dominant, even in spiritual seekers, or meditators, they can still have a left brain dominance. We tend to look at what's happening. We're certainly aware, because we're connected to these collective bands. We're aware of all of this tumult and turmoil within the emotional fields. And because it's very uncomfortable and there's no certainty and steadiness, our mind is trying to come up with, and remember this narrative is influenced by the left brain, looking at the parts and trying to come up with a narrative as to what is happening. Unfortunately, the narratives that many people are switching to or hanging on to or establishing and sharing tend to exacerbate the fear and doubt and overwhelm and sadness and despondency that we're already feeling. And there's indignation, there's outrage, there's disbelief at how human beings could act the way they are. But when we lean into those kind of narratives, we are exacerbating the turmoil and the tumult within the mental field, within the emotional field. And it is really hard for our consciousness to steady itself within that. It's a bit like asking somebody that's in the ocean in really high swell, big waves, getting tossed everywhere, asking them to stay still and stay steady. So right now, the waves, the emotional and mental waves, are rocking the planet. And even those people who consider they have a fairly good degree of steadiness are feeling that. We're all feeling it to some extent, more or less, because those waves are high right now and they keep on coming. So we're really in it. And when we're really in it, we tend to lose our center. We lose our sense of self. And when I say sense of self, I mean we tend to lose a sense of our true self. Because if, those waves, whether we feel them personally or we feel them as part of the collective, those waves are going to be in the foreground of our experience, and they're going to capture our conscious attention. And when our conscious attention is captured by those waves, then we are not only receiving those incoherent patterns, but our mental dialogue, our inner dialogue, our reaction, our response to that is also sending them. So we have to be careful, we have to be discerning, we have to be mindful that when this collective shift and change and everything that's happening in the name of it as we are moving through that. And we are right in it. And we're going to be in it for a while. So we need to learn how to function effectively. So this is one of the reasons why intelligent life exists, is to help us not only just come together, provide a sort of a community, a hub, an energetic container in which we can all meet and practice, but to provide the understanding of what's going on so that we can be more effective navigators for ourselves, but also for the world around us. The world around us, these energies are not going to integrate and assimilate on their own. So we as human beings are the vehicle for that to happen. And so I would encourage as many of you as possible to commit to a regular practice, because mental reorganization, affirmation, talking about it, listening to podcasts, whatever it is, they're all good. They all keep these ideas front of mind, um, and give us, helpful reminders as we go through our day when we are seeing things that we find challenging. But it's only immersion in the energies that you wish to experience, the aligned, harmonious, beautiful, expansive, light-filled, harmonious energies of source that have the power, that are encoded in such a way as they can override the incoherent patterns that the planet is awash with right now. And obviously, if we are going to, meditate in that way each day, it's helpful that the rest of our life supports that practice, so that we're eating well, we're keeping our body healthy, we are engaging in the kind of information and leisure activities that are conducive to the mindset and the way of being that we're trying to foster. And as we said, human beings are the medium through which these changes are taking place. So these are the topics that we're going to do over the next 6 sessions. Today we'll do remembering, and then we'll move into steadiness, mental and emotional equilibrium, rewiring your energy field, being a conduit, and envisioning the future. Why are we starting with remembering? Because remembering sets everything else in place. So if you know that if you drop a stone into a smooth pond, that the ripples, the rings will go out evenly in every direction. Remembering is like that stone. Where you drop it, everything takes its cue from that point, from that position, from that perspective. Of course, we can meditate every day, we can eat well and exercise and read positive, supporting information, and only engage with positive, supportive media, and be nice to our friends and family, and do all of that. But if we are doing all of that in a state of forgetting, we're going to exacerbate our forgetting. So remembering is really the beginning. So remembering includes coming into connection with our true nature. It includes revising and navigating experientially the design of life. Of course, intelligent life, has a lot of materials around that. it's also remembering the bigger picture. So it sets a context, remembering it's the ultimate perspective. It realigns, recenters, reharmonizes, rebalances everything in the light of that. So it's such an important aspect of our practice. And particularly now, where there is a tendency to look at individual people or events, or look at the trajectory of how we think, the human race is going, or what's happening ecologically to the planet. All of those narratives which subscribe to fear and doubt and overwhelm, they are part of the forgetting. They're all an aspect of forgetting. And that's not to say that there isn't some, genuine compassion and grief at what is happening right now. There's certainly a place for that. But we, all of us, need to just be careful that we don't subconsciously, inadvertently slide into a place where we are expecting the worst. So remembering has this lovely way of bringing us back to what is good, bringing us back to what is true, and showing us that the truth of life, the design of life, is still beautiful, despite what we're seeing on the surface. What we're seeing on the surface is only surface deep. I know it looks very compelling, I know it looks very convincing, but it is surface deep. There is something much bigger at play. And the truth, the source of life, is eternal. And what is appearing moment to moment is temporary. So although we are going through a time and a rate of time that makes it look like things are happening in a certain time frame, in terms of the big span of time, this period that we're passing through is relatively short in terms of the history of the planet, and certainly the history of consciousness itself, conscious expression. So I tell you all that because I want to give you encouragement, give you hope, and help you to trust and feel settled that the world is not going to hell in a handbasket, and that we ourselves can be an important part of what happens next.